If you've poured your heart and soul into publishing your first low-content books on Amazon and you haven't had a single sale yet, no one would blame you for wanting to throw in the towel. But don't quit just yet. There are a lot of steps in the self-publishing process, and if you can pinpoint that one step where things are going off the rails, you can make the necessary tweaks and finally get the sales rolling in. These are the 4 main areas to analyze to make sure that you're doing everything you can to get those books making sales. Now, a couple questions to ask yourself before you get going on any tweaks. The first one is just, have you given it enough time? Typically speaking, if a book of mine is going to make a sale, it's going to make a sale within those first 2 weeks, but there has been the odd time where a book hasn't sold until like week 4. So you want to give your book at least 1 to 4 weeks just to see if it actually is going to sell. The other question to ask yourself is if you've got reasonable expectations. Now, not every one of your books is going to sell. So that might mean that the first 1, 2, or even 5 or even more books isn't going to sell. That doesn't mean you're not going to have a sale somewhere down the line. Half of all of my books have never sold a single copy. One of my star Low Content Profits Academy students, Kim George, her first 30 books didn't sell. 30. But she kept at it, and now she's making over $10,000 a month. So don't think that just because your first few books haven't sold, you're destined to not have any sell. Also, the more books you create and you start making sales, you're gonna see the 80-20 principle at play here. So again, half of my books never sold. There's a huge swath of my books that really only sell like 1 or 2 copies a month. And then there's a very small handful that make up the bulk of all of those sales. So if you have a slew of books that you've published, a bunch of them haven't sold at all, then you've got a few books that are only selling like 1 or 2 copies, this is all completely normal and it's not a cause for concern at all. So knowing all of that, let's jump into those 4 areas that we're gonna assess just to make sure we're doing everything we can to start getting those sales rolling in. And those areas are research, design, optimization, and promotion. Now, the whole purpose of doing research is to validate your idea. You really want to try and create a book that people are actively searching for so that you know you've got a good chance of making sales before you actually spend time creating the book. Now, research is the most boring part for most of us, but there's just no way around it. We have to do it. So in order to validate your book idea, you're going to be asking yourself a few questions. Now, I go a little bit more in depth in this video here as to how to validate a book idea, but we'll just give you sort of like the top line right here. First off, you want to find out if there's actually a paying market for your book. The way you do that, you type in your book idea into the search bar and then look at the bestsellers rank of all of those results on the first page. If most of those books have a bestsellers rank, preferably around 100,000 or less, that means that those books are selling fairly regularly, and that validates that yes, there is a paying market for your idea. You also want to look at the competitiveness of that idea. So again, just going down that first page of results, are those books really high quality? Are they designed really well? Are they very appealing and attention grabbing? Most importantly, how many reviews do they have? If every single book in that page of results has, 20 plus 5-star reviews, that's gonna be pretty competitive and you're gonna have a really hard time competing with those books. If a few of them have a few reviews, if a couple of them have negative reviews, some of them don't have any reviews at all, that's going to be a lot less competitive, so you probably have a lot more luck there. You also want to have a clear audience in mind for who you're going to target. If you're doing a daily planner for women or a daily journal for women, women is a pretty broad category, so think about who this person actually is, what their interests are, what their age is. This is just going to help you decide on what the appropriate contents of that book is going to be, and it's going to help you in the design process later on, when you can actually consider what this person's interests and sensibilities really are. Moving on, next you want to tackle design. And coming right back to that last question of who is my target audience here. Knowing that is really going to help you to determine the design of your book. If you don't have that very specific person in mind, you're going to end up creating a very generic design that's not really going to appeal to anybody. You also want to ask, does my book stand out amongst its competitors? When you're scrolling through that first page of results and you imagine your book in that first page, is it going to stand out against what's already there? Or does it look too similar to some of the other offerings? If it looks too similar, it's not going to stand out. And people are probably going to go with the more established book that already might have a couple of positive reviews. Also ask, have I formatted my book covers design correctly? So oftentimes I'll actually see book covers that are just off kilter. They're totally off center. And it's surprising how often I actually come across that. Now, of course, that looks totally unprofessional and like a big mistake. So you want to make sure if you've got things that are centered on the cover of your page that it is actually centered. Another formatting issue is the typography. Like, is it too small? Can people actually read it? Is it too big? Do all of the design elements work together? Have you chosen really high quality fonts and graphics? I like to use Creative Fabrica for my graphics. You can check out a video on Creative Fabrica right here. And finally, just ask yourself if you are a competent designer. Now, you do not have to be a professional designer, but you do have to have a good eye for design. And you have to be real with yourself in assessing that as a skill of yours. If you're kind of not sure, just ask for feedback. And if you're in one of my Facebook groups, you can post a design in one of those groups and ask for some feedback. That's usually pretty helpful. And if design just really isn't a skill of yours, it might be something you'd like to outsource, because books definitely are judged by their cover, and that is what's going to get a shopper's attention right off the bat, is going to be the design. So the design does have to be good. Next up is optimization. So have you maxed out your title information and your keyword slots with low competition keywords? Now, for the title, we don't want to be keyword stuffing or anything like that, but if there's a natural way to work in a keyword into your title, that's going to help. Amazon really does look for keywords in the title information, so try and get at least one, maybe even two in there if you can. Say your book title out loud just to make sure it sounds natural, and if it sounds natural, you're good to go. And of course, those back-end keyword slots, those have to be filled with low competition keywords so that your book is actually discoverable in the Amazon store. Now, I definitely recommend using tools to come up with these keywords. The manual process can be kind of daunting, and the tools are going to give you some extra information, such as estimated search volume, that can help you make the right decisions. So there are some free versions of some of these tools. There's the Self-Publishing Titans Chrome extensions, which are really handy. There's AMZ Suggestion Expander, and then my favorite tool is a paid tool that is called Publisher Rocket, and it gives you all sorts of incredible information that makes choosing your keywords a pretty easy and streamlined process. Publisher Rocket can also help you come up with some low competition category ideas, and categories are another great way to add discoverability to your book and make sure that your listing is fully optimized. Next, check out your book's detail page. What is your description like? Is it a compelling description, or if you just slap together like 3 or 4 sentences? Is it properly formatted? You can add HTML to your book's formatting right there on the back end of KDP, so make sure you do that so that it looks pretty. You can use bold, you can use italics, you can use bullet points. Now, don't overdo these, but use them where necessary, and that's just going to make your description look nice. You also want to double check it for spelling and grammar. Next, have you taken advantage of A+ content? A+ content is a really great way to showcase a little bit more of the interior of your book. You can also use it to talk a little bit more about your brand or show off some of the other books that you're offering. Don't neglect this feature. It's very important. It's really helpful for shoppers to be able to see all of that information about your book and your brand. If you want to find out more about A+ content, you can check out that video right there. And then finally, ask yourself if you have priced your book accordingly. How does your price compare to similar books on the market? Obviously, if it's way overpriced, someone's probably not going to spend that unless you really are delivering that kind of value. But if it's similar to other books out there, well, then someone's probably going to go with a book that's a little bit cheaper. Now, at the other end of the scale, you don't want to price your book too low either. If you've priced your book lower than some of the other books out there, that actually also lowers the perceived value of your book as well. So in my personal experience, you want to kind of find out what the average is, and then maybe either do that average, or you want to just price your book an extra $1 or $2 higher. An extra $1 or even $2 doesn't really make that much of a difference to the customer, but it does for you when those royalties start coming in. Lastly, we want to look at promotion. Now, if you've done all of the other steps correctly, your book is going to be discoverable in the Amazon store, but promotion can just really help you increase your results. So if you're using ads, and if your books haven't been selling, you shouldn't be using ads yet, but once you start making at least 1 or 2 sales, and if you want to start experimenting with ads, go ahead, but ask yourself, are your ads optimized? Are you checking them every day and making any tweaks wherever necessary? And again, I can't stress this enough, ads should be the last part of the process once you've started to make a couple sales here and there. Ads are not going to save a poorly designed book, a poorly researched book, and just a general low quality book. And if that's the case, the ads are just going to put that book in front of even more people and just increase the results that you would have gotten even without the ads. Now, another thing to mention here with the promotion stage, and this is kind of more of a long game, so it may not be relevant right in the beginning, but I do suggest starting an email list even right from the get-go. The way you do that is by including a link to a relevant freebie inside your book. So when somebody does buy your book, they can go to that link, they can download your freebie, and now they're on your email list. And now, as you create more books, you start building a list of people that you can promote your book to. Now, this can be really effective because everyone on that email list, they're people that have already purchased a book from you and are likely going to be that much more interested in any future books that you put out. So again, this does take time, but once you start building that list, you now have a customer base that you can not only promote your books to, but you can actually ask them for reviews as well. And it's something that's just going to build and snowball over time. Also, in the promotion vein, if you're someone who already has an email list, great. If you've got a social media following on Instagram or TikTok or wherever, you can promote them there as well. Now, if you feel like you have done absolutely everything on this list and you've put out 5 or 10 or 15 books and you haven't made a single sale, it's time to ask for some feedback, because sometimes we all have our blind spots and you might think you're getting everything right on this list, but there's probably somewhere where you're going wrong, but you're just not exactly sure where it is. So this is where you need to get some help. Again, if you haven't joined my Facebook group, you can join that down in the description below. Start asking some questions in there, whether it be research related, optimization, promotion, design. Ask questions, get some help, get some feedback from other people that know what they're doing. Because chances are there is one part of that process where you're not doing something correctly, but you're just not aware of it. Or you are doing everything right and you just need to keep creating. Again, remember Kim from the beginning of the video? She created 30 books before she made even one sale. And then after that, she was able to figure out what she was doing wrong, and now she's making $10,000 a month. And again, you can check out her story right here. Also, there is a little bit of luck involved. I've had plenty of books that I thought were amazing, and for some reason, they just didn't sell, and I just don't know why. I thought they were great. I thought I'd done everything right. They just didn't sell. I missed the mark somewhere. Finally, just give yourself some grace. This is a brand new skill that you're learning for the very first time. You're gonna get things wrong. That's okay. That's just part of the learning process. So if you expect to put out a few duds, then it's not gonna sting as badly when you do put those out and they don't make any sales. So just give yourself that grace and allow yourself the time to just learn that skill and make some of those mistakes that you're going to make. And again, if you need a little bit of extra help, download my free guide, 3 Steps to Publishing Your First Low Content Book in Less Than a Day. Linked to that down in the description below. You can also join my Facebook group, Low Content Profits. Great place to ask questions. A link to that down below as well. You can check out this video next for more on low content publishing. If you liked this video, please hit the like button, do subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks so much.